All right. Trump spoke virtually at Davos at the World Economic Forum this week, and we have a clip of something that I think we all need to pay attention to.
It'll make the United States a manufacturing superpower and the world capital of artificial intelligence and crypto.
He came through with his speech recapping some of his campaign promises, the initiatives that he's pushing, but as you can see, that was my favorite part, really championing artificial intelligence, cryptocurrency. What do you feel about Trump's speech at Davos?
I really did feel like he was coming through the wall like the Kool-Aid man. He is pulling no punches. This is, when you really think about what Davos is, it is the elite of the world getting together. We recently interviewed Cenk, or I recently interviewed Cenk, and I was really surprised by, one, how much I enjoyed my time with him, and two, that he really brought to my attention something that I'd never really thought about before. I think a lot about in terms of left and right split, but I did not think about establishment versus populist. And so when you start viewing Trump through that lens, it gets very interesting. Now, what is the establishment? The establishment are the elites that are, I'm smarter than you, I know better than you, and if you just shut up and listen, we're gonna run the world the way that you want. And everything has been moving that way with the Davos crowd, this whole idea of you're gonna own nothing and be happy, and it just had always been sort of in the background for me, but never really been front and center. And so now really beginning to put together a worldview that incorporates the people that really believe that they know better, they are smarter, and they really should be in charge, that everybody's lives are gonna be better. That bothers me a lot. And it's what I have referred to as the dumb voter problem. And so now really beginning to see Trump push back against that. I love that energy, and needless to say, Trump seems like on paper he should be a part of that elite, and obviously over time we're going to find out if he is more of that or if he is that wrecking ball from the outside that is trying to put power back in the hands of people. And look, I'm still cautious in my optimism, but it really does seem like he made a lot of promises about reigniting the American economy, about putting America first. And he's going to be running things hot. There's no doubt about that. I mean, he's talking about the fact that we have the largest oil reserves in the world, and we're going to start acting like it. He is flexing on the world and showing them that we are the strongest economy. I mean, you can just feel the way, first of all, having him on the big screen, sitting there above the panel of plebs there, and flipping that script between actually Americans are the ones in the driver's seat, and you guys are going to dance to our tune. Like, it sounds terrible to say it, but that's the energy. Yeah. And I would be lying if I said that it didn't make me feel energized, to feel like, all right, we have an agenda to make the American economy strong. We have an agenda to put money back in Americans' pockets, the middle class. And I mean, that is just my whole shtick. And talking to Whitney Webb, another interview that we have upcoming, but talking to her about this idea of neo-feudalism, because my whole thing has been, I cannot make the elites make sense to me because it is so obvious that we need a thriving middle class. And the whole thesis of neo-feudalism is, no, you don't. You can literally just make them so scared and under your thumb and so surveilled that you can strip all of their economic power, and they will be so disempowered that they'll really just put up with it. And history shows that you can get away with that for a long time. There is nothing more terrifying to me than that situation. It's terrifying for a couple of reasons. One, it means the bulk of humanity feels disempowered, and I just hate everything about that. This is why my entire first phase as a YouTuber was all about, quite literally, one word: empowerment. And then two, they do eventually come for your head. And so that just strikes me as a really stupid way to set up life. And so all of the energy in his Davos speech was opposed to that. And you combine that with Milei, who I know we're going to talk about in a minute, and it really does feel like there's an energy sweeping through the Western world right now that is breaking the hegemony of this WEF ideology of elites are an important institution. Now, I will be the first to admit, I don't yet know what the world can't run without a group of people that are representative of the people. It is my current worldview that direct democracy does not work. Okay, it would be a fractal for another day to go into why I believe that, but given that I see the establishment elites trying to build a world that routinely disempowers economically and intellectually the masses, and that this whole idea of neo-feudalism might really be the point. But Trump is now coming in and disrupting that. It feels really good. Now, I liken this to what happened with the Arab Spring. So the Arab Spring was the first time where social media really put itself forward and said, we can make tremendous change. But for anybody that watched that, it just didn't go anywhere. And so you have a reestablishment of the elites, and this new elite did not work out well for Egypt. They certainly didn't go anywhere new. You did not see a new and vibrant Egypt step onto the world stage. So I haven't paid close enough attention to it to know exactly what happened, but it certainly did not pan out the way that for a minute it looked like it was going to. But as I see Trump and Milei really representing this new tip of the spear of the masses, saying we're going to do what works, we're going to do what makes our economy strong, to return to common sense. All of that it feels really good. So my hope is that given the energy and intensity with which Trump is moving, that this really could be the beginning of something. Now, I know better than to trust my emotions. And right now, what I have for you are directional hints. It's just way too early for it to be anything other than that with the way that Trump is moving. And then a positive emotion. So I'm not giving myself over to that. I think paranoia and skepticism are always well-founded and should be kept front and center. But this is a really fascinating moment where there's no longer right think, wrong think. There is, what are your economic policies and what are they yielding? And so he's laying them out, man. He made a bunch of promises when he was running for office, and he seems to be actually trying to deliver on those promises. Releasing the files, all the nominees seem in keeping with what he was talking about. Whether his nominees end up getting confirmed or not will be a totally different question. But yeah, I can feel him trying to put these things forward.
And it's interesting that we get this feeling on the world stage. This is different if he would have did a rally in Pennsylvania somewhere and we'd be like, okay, he just, campaign rhetoric part 2. But this was something that he's saying to our international colleagues, allies, some enemies were in the room as well. And the fact that he had this bombastic confidence, and it wasn't just isolated to him. To your point, Milei also had like a new message. Could we play that? That's the third clip after.
A year ago, I stood here before you alone and spoke some truths about the state of the Western world that were met with some surprise and astonishment by much of the political, economic, and media establishment of the West. And I must admit that in a way I understand it. A president from a country that, as a result of systematic economic failure for more than 100 years, as a result of having the country taken weak stances in major global conflicts, and as a result of us having closed ourselves off to trade, we had lost practically all international significance over the years. A president of such a country stood on this stage and told the entire world that they were wrong, that they were headed for failure, that the West had gone astray, and that it needed to be redirected.
I think it's just interesting that Milei, to his point, coming from a smaller country that we don't talk about, is now kind of this hero rolling in. We see the same thing happening with the, I'm blanking on the guy from El Salvador, who's kind of having the same, these new governing policies that are happening in different parts of the world are also being met with this enthusiasm with Trump. So it's not just isolated to America, but we're starting to see pockets of other places that have these similar ideas that are getting celebrated. So
yeah, and I should go farther to finish my point about what happened in Egypt. So right now, what I'm seeing is social media is allowing people to have a voice. I think this is exactly how Trump got elected. We had a huge battle of ideology, thanks to Elon coming in and freeing up X and making it a place where people weren't being censored. And so we could actually have the debate of, do we think the far left ideology is better, or do we think a more economic-led, right-leaning ideology is going to yield better results for the average person? And Milei referred to what's going on in Argentina as, we are showing you the ghosts of Christmases yet to come, and we know how it plays out. Basically, he said for about 100 years, they had adopted all these socialist policies. So this big raging debate that we just had, he said, we've been playing out for 100 years. And we're now showing you what happens when you reject that. You go back to capitalism, you go back to merit, which was a big part of Trump's speech, this is going to be about merit. And because we were able to have that debate on social media, those ideas were able to rip through the culture extremely fast. Mm-hmm. And that was exactly what was happening in Egypt that caused that to pop off. Now, for whatever reason, it was not able to gain the momentum that I'm hoping it's going to be able to gain in the West. And so what I think you see in America, what I think you see in Argentina is a culture that is able to absorb those ideas and actually do something with them. And I think that what happened, and this is pure speculation on my part, again, I'm not a historian that can really speak to that, but what it feels like from a distance, what happened in Egypt was they didn't have the culture of entrepreneurship. They didn't have the culture of demanding a leader that speaks for the people. And because that has played out in Argentina, and over the last year, they've built up a surplus and they've gotten their budget in order, and they've had a surplus for the first time, and I forget how many years, but many years. And you feel that same energy coming off of Donald Trump, who's saying, look, I'm going to run this hot and fast, and we're going to become energy independent. We are going to remove all these regulations so that people can build new sources of energy for the different things that they want to do. Take AI, for instance, spinning up all of this energy production. He was even talking about, and this is where people are going to get really weird, but he's saying, like, I even want them to build like access to coal for emergency use so that if something happens, that you'd still be able to have that backup energy. So this is somebody that really understands what drives the economic engine and is saying we're going to protect the economic engine at all costs. And up until this moment, it's been a far more left-leaning ideology of what I'll lovingly call fish over people. I get that that's just a meme, but that idea of, hey, we have to do this at all costs. And even if that means that, people are freezing to death in other countries and the cost of energy is skyrocketing to very little apparent result, we're rejecting all of that, and we're going to restart this engine. And that engine of just pure economics is going to be the thing that carries the day. And so my hope is that now, because of the setup that we have in the West culturally, because our institutions are designed exactly for this, with liberty as one of our leading values, as he starts to deregulate, that we'll be able to innovate, that we'll be able to hopefully get our way out of this horrific cycle of inflation, stealing money from the people and giving them, because you only have two levers, you can spend less, you can make more, and him really doing both of those. My hope is that my hypothesis is true, that if people are making more money over time and they have a reason to believe that their kids will do even better than they will, that it brings this optimism and this drive to be great and to innovate that has made America great for as long as it has, that we really recapture that spirit. And so it does feel like somebody's had their thumb on the true American spirit and it's now lifted. And so, my hope is that this is that same kind of spring that we saw in Egypt, but now that it's really gonna go into a full-blown summer.
100%. And now jumping into specific policy recommendations, he talked about lowering the corporate tax for companies who produce in America, bringing it from, he said it was 40, he brought it down to 21, and he's either offering it now to bring it down to 15 as long as you make your products in America. Do you think this tax benefit will spur kind of local production in America?
Yeah, so this is where this gets really interesting. So it is very easy to have the conversation of, how do we get money into people's hands? So do we want to give money directly to the people, or do we want to do what will be mocked for being trickle-down economics? And what Trump is putting forward, I think, is ultimately the thing that's going to work. Corporations have developed a terrible fucking name because of all the corruption. But if people cannot understand that there's pathology on both sides. So if you allow corporations to get corrupt, then yes, they're going to do the elite game. They are going to hollow out the middle class, which they have been doing. That really is a problem, and we really must stop doing that, or it is going to create catastrophic problems. I want to be very clear. Your corporations can go too far. If you let that happen, you create what we're living through right now, and it is fucking bad. Now, having said that, if you don't recognize that the very thing that creates the prosperity is capitalism. And capitalism is corporations. And capitalism done well incentivizes people to innovate, to please their customers more than the next by making a product that is better. And better products are what have made the modern world. Capitalism is the thing that has pulled people globally out of poverty. There's been nothing else that's done it. Even China, when they realized, okay, hold on a second, we've got to get out from under the tyrannical Mao policies. How are we going to do this? We're going to do this by leveraging capitalism. Now, they didn't let capitalism go unfettered, so we're going to see what happens if, hey, is that better where it's capitalism sometimes and then you crush it down when it gets too hot, you let it go, crush it down, let it go, crush it down? Don't know, we'll see. But all I know is when they want to go up in life expectancy, when they want to make things better financially for their people, the thing they don't do is more communism. The thing they do is more capitalism. So I'm just saying, I think it's going to have the same effect here. All the while, we must watch out for the tendency for tyranny, the tendency for oligarchy, and the people that are, I think, poised to help unlock America's greatness right now are also the same people that, if we're not careful, they spill over and they become oligarchs and they do everything to position themselves to win. But corporations pleasing their customers is exactly how you generate prosperity. Knowing all of that, now it begs the question, is lowering the tax rate actually going to be the thing that allows us to unleash that? Or is this simply going to get back to Americans are not going to have enough money in the coffers to take care of people? And so this is where it becomes a question of what unlocks more tax dollars. Is it quantity of tax, meaning higher percentage tax yields more dollars in the government coffers? Or is it lower tax and you make it up in volume because we increase GDP? So for instance, if by lowering the taxes, we simply collect less tax money, then there's going to be less money for the US government to start paying down the debt. There's going to be less money for all the social safety nets and all of our entitlements, and people are going to freak the fuck out. So I want to be very clear. If doing that causes deeper austerity measures, people are going to hate it, and Trump is going to be wildly unpopular. If, on the other hand, the 1-2 punch of deregulating so that innovation really can run free, and by lowering the tax rate, people are now, I want to remind people, you have to make your product in America to get access to that lower tax rate. So make your thing outside of America, you're going to get tariffed into oblivion. You're also going to be at a higher tax rate. Come into America, make your products here. You're going to have a much lower tax rate and you're going to avoid the tariffs. So theoretically, because AI is in here somewhere, but theoretically, that means that more Americans are going to be getting hired. Also, because he is focused so intensely on lowering the cost of energy by drill, baby, drill. Now, all of a sudden, the cost of manufacturing comes down. And so, again, the one thing you can trust people to be is selfish. You start giving people tax breaks. You start creating a better regulatory environment. You lower the cost of energy. Now, all of a sudden, America actually becomes the place where you're just, the most selfish thing you can do is to go make your product in America. And so, it's one of those, there are no guarantees that this is going to work, but man, on paper, does it look good. And I get it. I understand the flip side. I have already done in past episodes the steel man of the argument of people who say this isn't going to work. But I look at it and go, my question is, will it happen fast enough for all of those things to coalesce quickly enough that people feel it over the next 4 years? If it does, then I really think that this is going to be a pretty special moment in America. But I think he is putting the right pieces in play, and it's really exciting.
It is. And to your point, the deficit will indicate that. So if we are bringing in more revenue and this was the appropriate right move. And
here's the thing, dude. If our GDP is whatever, it's like 2.5 to 3%, somewhere in there. If he can get it to 4 or 5%, holy hell. Money is just raining from the sky. It would be unbelievable. Now, again, AI's in this mix somewhere. And so it is entirely possible that a lot of that GDP is generated by AI and you still have people that are struggling to find work. That's a very real thing. But manufacturing at least is something that applies to so many people. It's not like he's trying to onshore a bunch of high-tech, white-collar jobs. This is about making things here again. And I don't think this horse will ever be dead, so I'm going to keep beating it. We are now competing with China as a pure competitor, and we need to be prepared militarily. We need to be prepared economically. And he's really trying to do things that will bring jobs back to America. And just to keep this going, we're seeing people invest in America in a big way.
Yeah. So all the pieces are there. We'll see. One thing that he needs to get done is his deal over in Ukraine. Trump put out a tweet on Truth Social calling out President Putin to get a deal done. How do you feel about this rhetoric? I was a little bit nervous about the Israel-Palestine ceasefire. Then he got it done. So I'm looking at
You
this.
were nervous that it wouldn't happen?
I was nervous that might antagonize them. But then it ended up, ceasefire came out 2 days later. I ate my words. I feel like he's repeating that playbook, talking tough, telling Putin that Ukraine is ready, and kind of putting the ball in their court. So do you think they're going to bite and Russia's going to come back? Or what do you think's happening?
I think this is a question of amplitude. We put a bunch of sanctions on them when this first happened, and it didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Not only did it not do anything, it drove Russia, China, Iran. It started pushing all of them together. And I really hated that and thought that some of the economic sanctions that we did were a mistake, that it showed people if you hold US debt, it's a bad idea because we can seize it. Now, Trump doesn't seem to be talking about seizures, but he is talking about tariffing them. And so if Russia is really connected to the countries that Trump has enough pull over to make the tariff amplitude so big that it dwarfs the sanctions that couldn't get him to behave, then yeah, this could work.
Yeah.
But I'm always like, what's the backup? And the backup is either do nothing and let it rage, send infinite amounts of money to the Ukraine so that they can fight properly, which I think will piss Americans off. So I think that's more or less off the table. Or actual kinetic violence, American troops on the ground. There's no universe in which he does that. They would have to invade a NATO partner before he would do that. There's no way. So that's where I'm like, I don't know. I don't know that we have a slam dunk here, and I'll be very curious to see it play out. But I'm getting the feeling that given the strength of the American economy and the fact that he is just shameless in throwing that weight around in a way that the Biden administration wasn't prepared to do, that it might work. But this would be one where I would really, really like to get people like Mearsheimer in here to talk about John Mearsheimer. Anybody that has a connect to John Mearsheimer, we've gone hard in the paint trying to get him on the show. I would love to talk to him, somebody that really understands realpolitik, that understands the musculature of all of this stuff and how that plays out, and really understands the relationship between the US and Russia. I think he'll have a good read on whether that would work or whether that would just cause more problems. So yeah, we'll see.
We shall see. We'll play it out. If you had to like 50-50, 60-40, what's the percentage that Russia and Ukraine approach a ceasefire deal?
Over what time period?
Before the end of 2025.
If you're going to give Trump a whole year of working on that, I would say probably 70-30.
Okay, if I cut that in half in the next 3 months.
In the next 3 months, then I'll just say coin toss 50-50. I don't have a strong sense.
Got it. Cool. Well, we're going to continue this Trump train because he has been busy. He signed a couple EOs today. The crypto EO was finally signed. In it, he mentioned stablecoins, he prohibited CBDCs, and he proposed the potential to set up a digital asset stockpile. Is this the campaign promise being fulfilled? Is this a good first step? What did you read about it?
The thing that everybody needs to be very sober about is that most of the things that he's proposing, he's still going to have to get passed through Congress. And so he's basically indicating intent Now, the intent that he's indicating is fantastic. Are some of the things that he's putting forward things that he knows are going to get shot down? I suppose that's possible. With the Bitcoin strategic reserve specifically, there's a reason that he put that as, well, we should explore it. That's really all it said, was they're going to put forward recommendations. The other ones he was a lot stronger about. So we'll see. But I do see this as the things he said are the things he actually wants to do. Like, I have yet to see something where I feel like, oh, he was just saying that and doesn't plan to make good on it. I mean, he is like moving fast, dude. He's been in office 3 days. I mean, is that where we're at? 3 or 4 days? So it's, I mean, he is signing these to the point where I'm worried he's going to get carpal tunnel syndrome. So he is definitely trying to signal to everyone, this is really what I'm trying to do. He's certainly not shy about throwing his weight around both nationally and internationally. So yeah, I mean, we'll see. But this is somebody who I think is playing to win. Whether he wins is a much bigger question, but he's actually on the field trying to get it done.
Yeah, and I think that's the one thing I appreciate about it is campaign promises. A lot of times they're all talk. We have countless examples about how presidents lie, get into office and do something completely different. For the most part, in the first 4 days, he has at least signed executive orders that have put forward some of his promises that he laid out. To your point, he has to get signed. It has to go through Congress. It's not over yet, but it's definitely a win for, Team Red and MAGA that he is making those moves. He's taking those first steps to the best of his power. So
correct.
Yeah, we'll keep monitoring it. Okay, we got to talk about your boy Elon. He was being petty on X.
This is pretty funny.
Yeah, let's pull this up. So we talked about this on the last episode. We had the historic announcement, $500 billion for AI infrastructure into the U.S. Elon immediately...
Which, by the way, a big announcement from Trump, a key thing, the press conference with Masa-san, like, hey, I asked for 100, then it was 200. Masa rolls up with the 500. Big press conference, and then Elon hits him with, they don't actually have the money. And it was like, next tweet, SoftBank has well under 10 billion secured. I have that on good authority. And I've got to imagine Trump was not loving that tweet exchange. So of course the headlines were like, has the bromance ended between Trump and Elon?
To your AI, EO, just hours after you made that big Stargate announcement, Elon Musk tweeted that they don't actually have the money. Is that true?
I don't know if they do, but they're putting up the money. The government's not putting up anything. They're putting up money. They're very rich people, so I hope they do. And I mean, Elon doesn't like one of those people, so you're allowed.
This one is going to be very interesting to see play out, because if you look at Scaramucci, he's like, he just cannot work with strong personalities. He can't do it. He's got a brittle ego, Trump. And he's never going to be able to play for the long run with these guys. And so a lot of great ideas. He is not a consensus builder. It's all going to fall apart. Wow. And you start seeing this and it'll be interesting. Now, if Trump can focus on the art of the deal and actually get things done, then we might see that, he's going to let Elon let off a little steam, say what he needs to say, and he's just going to keep pushing things forward in the way that he sees fit. And as long as they can disagree and, say the things that they need to say to protect their own egos, but they keep moving forward and they have enough in common that they, just keep pushing forward. For instance, if what Elon is really hungry for is get to Mars and Trump's message, I'm obviously speculating, but if Trump's message to him is, listen, I'm going to deregulate a bunch of stuff so that your businesses will finally be unshackled. Then what you do is up to you. But the Mars thing, I'm really going to get behind that. And we are going to plant the stars and stripes on Mars. I'm here for that. And however we can help you get there, we're going to help you get there. And Elon just has to pick his horse and say, fine, AI is going to be one of the things that I do, but maybe that's not going to be the key thing that I get his help with. Just deregulate, let me go in and compete. Elon believes in himself in terms of being able to compete. And let us not forget, as of right now today, XAI has the biggest AI infrastructure, period, full stop, end of story. Did it faster than anybody thought possible. Jensen Huang of NVIDIA said he did in like 6 weeks what most people do in 5 years. And he's like, this is incredible. I've just never seen anything like it. So I think Elon is more than happy to bet on himself. And so if they have sort of a gentleman's agreement that, okay, look, Mars is going to be the play. I'm going to back you hard there, but I'm going to be doing other things with or without you, because I can't fathom that Elon didn't know the AI thing was coming.
Yeah.
So the fact that they haven't like fallen out yet, there's been no major fall apart as far as I can tell. And I imagine he knew about that long before standing at the inauguration and being excited about all the announcements about Mars and all that stuff. So that's my gut instinct. It's pure speculation at this point, but I could see that. But you're never going to get Trump to shut up. You're never going to get Elon to shut up. And so I think we're all going to get a great TV show of these guys like saying things like that. Now, if they start taking shots at each other directly, then I would read that differently.
Yeah.
But for now, I think that it's a level that won't break up a friendship. How about that?
Yeah. Have you seen something like this in the business world where two strong personalities kind of clash and where they could just collab and make money? They instead like get petty and
it is hilarious and ridiculous. And dude, I've seen people that are terrifyingly smart and they cannot get out of their own way.
Sheesh.
I've heard people say things like, I'll build people up until they make me nervous and then I have to tear them down. And I'm like, you're aware you do it and you can't stop yourself. Like that's ego.
Yeah.
Because let me tell you, this is a famous quote. I have no idea who said it the first time, but it is so true. I realized you can get anything done if you don't need the credit for it. And so people that really get shit done, they'll let it be somebody else's idea. And oh man, am I going to pay the price for this one day? Probably, but I'll say it anyway because it's true. At Impact Theory University, I actually teach my entrepreneurial students, like there are going to be times where you have somebody who's so problematic that you have to take your best ideas and just say things like, man, Drew, that idea of yours, the one that I just said, it's so brilliant. I'm so glad you came up with that idea. And even though that person knows they didn't come up with it, if you give them that credit in front of other people, they either have to turn it down and say, no, that wasn't me, in which case they lose whatever credit you just gave them in front of other people, or they have to take credit for an idea that wasn't theirs. Now, obviously, the more you can do it in a subtle way where they don't notice that it was your idea and that now they can just subtly take credit for it, that's obviously better. But it works to a freakish degree because so often people are being driven by their ego and not by a desired outcome, which is really bizarre. And so the people that really, really, really can win in life are people that can balance it. Because the reality is you do need to get credit for some things. Otherwise, you'll lose power because people don't realize the influence that you have. But if you're willing to give credit to other people, to give up a lot of that, to share the credit, man, it goes a long way. But people achieve big things often because they have outsized belief in themselves. And with that outsized belief comes some of the weirder personality traits.
outsized egos right along with it.
We'll get back to the episode in a moment, but first, if you're a business owner looking to scale, I can help. I assume you're here because you know the world is a freakishly complicated place, but with the right rubric for decision making, you can navigate even the most complex problems well. After scaling my last company to $1 billion exit, I knew I had a winning formula, something I call the physics of progress. It works in any industry, in any economic climate, bull market, bear market, doesn't matter. Every complex problem can be solved if you know how to approach it from first principles. In the end, that's how you avoid getting trapped in plateaus. Think about the biggest challenge facing your business right now. Maybe your revenue drops every time you step away. Maybe your industry is affected by tariffs, or your business partner is holding you back. Maybe your marketing is no longer working, or you hate social media and everyone tells you that's where you have to be. These problems can seem impossible until you approach them from first principles. That's exactly what I teach inside the $1 Billion CEO program. I'm only working with a select group of entrepreneurs right now, but if you've got a real business and are looking to scale, apply now. Visit impacttheory.com/scaling or click the link in the show notes to apply. Again, that's impacttheory.com/scaling.
We'll keep monitoring the situation, but the one thing Trump didn't do, he didn't tweet about it. He went and got another check. So Saudi Arabia pledged $600 billion. So just, again, first week of office, Trump had attracted $1.1 trillion in foreign investment, 500 from SoftBank, allegedly, if Elon says it, and now 600 billion from Saudi Arabia. That has to be like a fundraising goal or something, right? Like, this is kind of crazy.
So one, let us officially put on the table, you and I are both very aware that this is sort of a breaking story. And some people are saying that some of the 600 billion is actually the 500 billion that Masa-san was already talking about. So we don't know if it's complete 1.1 trillion or if it's a little bit muddy. That'll come out in time. But if, regardless of whether it's just 500 or just 600 or all the way to 1.1 trillion, to be this early in his term and to have attracted that kind of international financing of American companies. I mean, Stargate is a company. Yeah. So this is not a government initiative. This is the government saying, this is something we want to see happen, and I'm helping broker these deals. And it's a really fascinating insight to look at Trump as somebody who's about the art of the deal, that's what he wants his legacy to be. I can get deals done. Whether it's the Abraham Accords, the thing that nobody said was going to be possible to try to bring people in the Middle East together. He was able to do that, hopes to continue moving that forward now that he's back, getting Japan to make huge investments in us, getting Saudi to make huge investments, doing the tax break stuff that he's doing to try to get even foreign companies to manufacture here, get American companies that had sent manufacturing overseas to bring it back. It is really a great sign to see if he's able just to play a pure economic game and say, yeah, I'm going to create scenarios where we win and other people win. And look at how he's handling the TikTok thing. I think it's hilarious, but the fact that he's saying America should get half of this, like, it's just it's a little crazy, but it's also like, what did he say in his first term? Yes, I'm a bully, but I'm your bully. It's like, I don't know, this time it rings true. I'm sort of over I hate the way he talks and all that stuff that really turned me off the first go round. And am now just like, yeah, go get a little more for us. You know what I mean? Like, it's interesting. Yeah.
TikTok thanked them when they came back from the ban. Like, his name was actually on TikTok is now restored in the US thanks to President Donald Trump. So he's able to put himself in interesting situations.
I think you're going to see more of that. I think that's going to be a big thing. I think he lives for that. And I think people know that he lives for that. And it's something that the left has derided him for, that, if you say something nice to Trump, that he'll do whatever you want. Obviously, it's not that simplistic. But if he's able to get people to do things for him to the point where they're all game to thank him publicly because he's obviously doing a thing that they're like, whoa, this is really helpful for me. That's reciprocity. And if you can get a lot of people that feel like they owe you one, man, don't overlook that. Don't overlook that. Now, of course, you got to be careful because that kind of thing turns into corruption, turns into nepotism, et cetera, et cetera. So I think people that are paranoid ought to remain paranoid. I think people that are skeptical ought to remain skeptical. But I think we're going to see the proof is in the pudding that ultimately people want things. And the art of the deal is helping them get the things that you want, all the while resounding to your benefit. So we'll see, man. We'll see. I get this is all emotion. This is all excitement. None of it's real yet. But at least there's something to be excited about.
All right. I mean, you said it, so I feel like you gave me the segue. I can't even take credit for it. Are you ready to get paranoid now?
I'm ready, Drew.
Okay, I got to sit up.
I'm glad that this is your idea. This is your idea.
I got to sit up for this one. Okay, we got a couple. We're going to start from easy, and we're going to get more and more tinfoil, okay? So right now...
All right, so we're in conspiracy corner.
We're in conspiracy corner right
tinfoil
now.
Hat on.
Right now, we're locking the doors, okay? We're still outside. We still have
it's just normal, you and me.
Yes, a normal social routine, but we're going to get full, doomsday conspiracy theorists at the end. Hold on. Okay, number one. The deep state is real. James O'Keefe got another one. I don't know why people in DC keep swiping,
bro.
But
this is crazy to me.
He caught another person.
The guy was like, "You really had somebody? You found somebody fake to go on a date with me?" He's like, "Yeah."
He was so hurt. You could tell he was thinking I'm about to text him this. He was so ready for date number 2. And O'Keefe just took it. So, okay, this one wasn't as bad. So that's why this is the softball. He was like, yes, I'm admitting that the deep state is real. but he kind of uses bureaucracy and commissions to kind of muddy the water, slow it down. I think your barnacle analogy almost. Yep. So I feel like this one you kind of seen coming. This is like a...
Dude, there's no way that anybody thinks that the bureaucracy isn't real. Some people just don't like the word deep state, but we all know, even in a normal company, oh, my boss is such a dickhead. Like, I'm just going to slow roll this, or I'm going to do this, or whatever. I know I'm going to go talk to that person and they'll kill it. Like, humans going to human. You get a large enough group and people are going to be working at cross purposes. That there's no way that there is a single human being on planet Earth that doesn't acknowledge that that's true of humans. So if we know that's true of humans, you scale it up to the size of the US government, it's obviously going to be happening. Where I think people get weird is when you call it the deep state and you start talking about these are people that are intentionally trying to sabotage Trump or whoever. I'm sure there were people trying to sabotage Biden. So I'm just saying, this is obviously real, but there's something. In fact, I loved what James O'Keefe said at the end of this. In fact, cue up the very end of this, because James O'Keefe said the exact right thing, which is, pause it real fast. The paraphrase, and we'll play the exact thing, is that if you're going to be doing this stuff, you have to say it out loud and do it openly to people's face. Otherwise, we're going to keep catching you on hidden camera.
You know, I think he was surprised at first, but he kind of talked to us a little bit. I think he's just in a state of total shock. And you know what? Bureaucrats in Washington, you're on notice, okay? You are on notice. You either say these things openly and publicly and transparently, or we catch you on tape, also known as investigative journalism.
Okay, so the thing that I am really tripped out by is that most people do not take the time to say, this is my value system. This is what I believe. This is what I'm steering towards. And once you make them say it out loud, there is often, clearly not always, because this guy was willing to say it to that woman. He was perfectly happy to. But oftentimes you'd be like, yeah, this is kind of gross. Yeah. And merely saying it out loud and having to present it to the public, the second you go to say it, you're like, wow, yeah, this really does sound terrible. And my life as a content creator changed the day I realized, oh, I go on X to fight. Oh, I should be reading all the comments in my YouTube because I should be there to fight for my ideas. Cool. Then I'm only going to say the things that I'm prepared to fight for. And look, I'm always open to changing my mind, and people will see me in the comments. If somebody's like, this is a fucking moronic take, P.S., that's all they'll say. They won't even explain why. But I'm really like, cool, tell me in what way it's dumb. Because if it actually is dumb, I want to update my thinking. Yeah. But when you're like, I'm going to say these things because I believe them. I'm prepared to defend them. I'm prepared to go in and be faced with a reaction to my ideas. Now, all of a sudden, it's like you really do start to limit the things you're going to pop off on. That's what I want to see the deep state do. Just say what you stand for, say it publicly, say it transparently, because especially if you believe that people were elected to enact the will of the people, which the guy actually said when he was being followed by James O'Keefe, then it's like, then why are you working against what the people voted for?
It's very true. It's very true. And I like how he ended it to stand on your morals. If this is what you're doing, if this is what you're about, don't throw rocks with you and hide your hand, like stand 10 toes down about it. So we'll see. All right. We're going to level 2 now. Trump just signed an EO declassifying docs that surrounded JFK, RFK, and MLK's murder. I think we're going to find something there.
This is going to be crazy. The fact that they have not released these, even though they've had FOIA requests, even though the time has expired, but they decided to re-put it down. Now, my thing is, what did Trump know the first go round? The way he explained it when he was asked was like, oh, people that I really respect are like, no, you want to leave this one alone. Now, it's entirely possible Trump was like, okay, for real? And they're like, for real. You don't even want to look because then you don't have plausible deniability. And it's possible that Trump was like, all right, cool, don't even show me. Man, if it were me, I'd be like, no, let me see it real fast. Like, I would have to know, you know what I mean? And then at that point, it's like, okay, if you looked at it and you know what's up and you still didn't want to show it, then that means there's really something spicy in there. But I have a feeling we have all been so desensitized to human evil, the fact that our government does sinister shit. When I heard again, I don't even know if this was AI, if it was real, but when I heard the like breaking news about JFK and he was murdered by LBJ, I was like, okay. Like I was shocked that I wasn't shocked. I was just like, yeah, okay, sure, I buy it. Like, I don't know what you could say where I'd be like, holy shit. The only thing for me, because I so don't believe we've been visited by aliens, if it was like, no, aliens took them out or whatever, and they just had like stone cold proof, I'd be like, holy shit.
Some green shapeshifter just wanted to take.
It's really the X-Men. It was actually Mystique. Then I'd be like, oh shit. Anything short of that, and I'm just gonna be like, yeah, fuck. Like, who could it be that killed him? Where I'd be like, no way. It was his wife. She had him killed. Yeah, okay. Marilyn Monroe had him killed. Okay, from the grave. Yeah, I buy it. LBJ did. Yep, sure. CIA. Yeah, I got it.
Cool.
No, it was RFK. It was Tupac. Whatever. Nothing is going to shock me. Dude, humans are fucking psychopaths. If people read enough history, at some point there really should be nothing they could say. It's only if it happened right now in the moment. That's when it's like, the danger feels imminent. Like if we found out that the Biden administration was trying to kill Trump, then I would have freaked the fuck out. Like if we learned that now, just because it's all happening right now.
In the moment. Yeah.
But it's not like I wouldn't believe that of somebody former in the past. But that would feel like you're in a car, you step on the brakes and the brakes don't work. That's what that would make me feel like.
Yeah.
Whereas now I feel like, oh, the brakes are back on the car. The fact that the brakes didn't work, whatever, 50, 60 years ago, it's like, whatever. But yeah, I can't see it creating any sort of big drama now. I think it's just that somebody still alive is involved. And so now it's trials and things like that and all that. That's my gut as to why they kept saying, don't do it.
Okay. All right, level 3. We're gonna get there. This one's a little funny. So this one goes to our AI take that we talked about earlier. Could we do the next one? Stargate gets announced. Oracle, Larry Ellison, OpenAI, Sam Altman, SoftBank.
Yep.
$500 billion. Oracle gets exposed as a CIA contractor. Elon says they ain't got the money. A Microsoft exec that oversaw the OpenAI partnership quits abruptly. Microsoft confirms that they have $80 billion on hand to build out Azure and their kind of AI products. Elon calls out SoftBank for not having the liquid assets. And then the Saudis step up and want to invest $600 billion out of nowhere. Is it because SoftBank didn't have the bread and Saudi Arabia is kind of carrying the load and Elon exposed them?
Yeah, I don't know what to do with that one. So I don't know. That one is like just going to play out. And if that all ended up being true, let me tell you how business at that level works. It's kind of like Hollywood movies where you go to somebody and you say, hey, look, Tom Cruise is going to be in this movie, but he's only in if you're in. Are you in? That person's like, yeah, oh my God, like 100%. Make it another big name actor. God, who's big anymore? Hugh Jackman. And so then Hugh Jackman's like, yeah, I'll do it if Tom Cruise is in it. Then you go and say, hey, we've got Hugh Jackman, Tom Cruise. Would you like to be in a movie with Hugh Jackman? Yeah, I'll do that. And so you use the first person who wasn't actually in it. So I could see where SoftBank is like, look, I can get the $500 billion, but I need the following things to line up.
Yeah.
And Mr. Trump, so that you feel comfortable making the announcement, here's the 10 billion sitting here. The remaining 490 is contingent on these things, because it even said up to 500 billion. So it's like, I'm sure it was just contingent on a bunch of different things. Elon hears from somebody else is like, man, they don't even have the money. You know better than that. Like, it's XYZ. Now, whether the Saudi thing is related in any way, shape, or form, that I have no idea. And I don't know what the Microsoft guy quitting has to do with anything. But if he shows up dead somewhere, hung himself after being shot 6 times in the stomach, it's like, well, that I don't know.
And OpenAI is good for
see.
that. Allegedly.
Right?
Allegedly.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's one of those trippy things. Like, how many whistleblowers have wound up dead? It's like, I don't think we're going to like that number.
Okay.
But then it's like, is it just the pressure of doing that? And these are people that had some conflict. It doesn't mean that they were killed, but also people kill people. as we're about to find out with those files being released. So yeah, we'll see, man. But this, I'm definitely in tinfoil hat territory here. This one, these feel more like a scatter plot. They don't feel like dots that actually connect yet, but we'll see.
Okay. I came up with 3. I didn't get you this time, but I'm going to get Tom in a tinfoil hat. That's my goal. All right. I got one last thing and then we can wrap this up. The best ad I seen today is from Pakistan Airlines. Paris, we're coming today. I don't think...
Not quite what they had in mind. For anybody that was around for 9/11, that ad is going to be a wee bit triggering. So they pulled that, right?
Yeah, intern definitely got fired today.
Yeah.
I just thought that was hilarious. Maybe it's lost in translation. I don't know. But
that was, I mean, dude, look, if that was done by somebody in their early 20s, they were not either alive or cognizant for what happened in 9/11. So, but that is... Yeah, that's pretty funny.
It's like the flag is off center. The Eiffel Tower is not even it's just top to bottom was a bad design. But
whoops.
There
it is. They can't all be bangers, Drew. they can't all be bangers. Not everything is going to come together. It is what it is.
That's all I got.
All right, everybody. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. And until next time, my friends, be legendary. Peace. If you like this conversation, check out this episode to learn more. Do not hit pause on this one because we've got an action-packed episode for you today. Drew, kick us off, man.
So jumping right into it, Stargate, which is now America's AI infrastructure. They have SoftBank financing it. Larry Ellison, the CEO of Oracle, kind of as